guess I didn't see him. What are you looking so sad about, Jap?
I'm surprised. I mean, I'm really insulted. That's not right, what you just said.
What do you mean, what I just said?
I mean, I'm getting a drink of water. I'm late getting home, but you talk. I said something about the greatest heavyweight champ, man. I'm a hometown man, and you talking about Joe Louis, man. Joe Louis wouldn't be nothing for me. Joe, I tell you, Joe, do you think you would have stood a chance with me?
Well, man, one time during my career, I was on a Bubba One tour.
I would have been a bum because compared to you.
What's happening, my people? It's Cat Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. That's right. You know what time it is. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian bringing you all that boxing history. Boxing is the greatest sport of them all. That's why we love it. Can't get enough of it. Miss Cass, Crush the Legend. Salute to everyone and welcome to another episode of Cass Sports, the Boxtorian. Today, the life and career of Terence Bud Crawford. Terence Bud Crawford has a family today. We're right at the end of another big week of boxing history. Salute, Crush the Legend in the building. Coffee and the Donuts, weekday mornings, Monday through Friday. One of the best shows on YouTube. Salute, Crush. Yeah, we're going to be talking about Bud today, his life, and go through the major fights in his resume. Take a look at them. It's the long one. So let's get started. We're going to start out as we always do. We're going to reach back into the archives and pull up a classic fight and start out with our fight of the day. So let's go. Okay. The fight of the day today is going to be Salvador Sanchez versus Danny Lopez 1. February 2nd, 1980. Shaba defeats Danny Lopez. Salvador Shaba Sanchez versus Danny Little Red Lopez. All the way back to 1980. Okay, Sanchez versus Lopez. 1. They had 2 fights. This is 1 right here. Danny Little Red Lopez had won the WBC version of the featherweight crown in 1976, and no one begrudged him the title. This was because Lopez, contrary to the stereotype of the merciless one-punch knockout artist, was as nice a guy as you could ever meet in boxing. Respectful and unassuming, Little Red quietly went about his business, which involved dishing out some shattering right hands to his opponents, though often not before getting a bit roughed up himself. In the late 70s, Danny Little Red Lopez was one of the game's most popular fighters. Okay? The story of Danny Lopez is one we've heard many times before, one that almost redeems the brutal and heartbreaking racket called prize fighting. Boxing gave Danny a means by which to make something of himself, to rise above his impoverished childhood. He grew up living with 7 siblings in a 2-room shack on a native reservation and spent time in jail for assault and battery before being shuffled off to a foster home. His older brother Ernie boxed and would eventually challenge the great Jose Napales for the welterweight world title. So when Danny was 16, he simply made up his mind to follow the same path as his older brother. He embraced all the discipline and hard work their profession demands, and ever after, there was no more trouble with the law. 5 years after he turned pro, and with wins over Chuco Castillo and Ruben Olivares on his record, there he was, in Ghana of all places, overwhelming David Cote for the featherweight championship of the world. Yep, it was his first title. All the way to Ghana and beat David Cote. There is him and David Cote. Right here. It was his first title fight, and he won the title over David Cote. Okay? So, the title reign of Lopez was distinguished by the thrills he gave fight fans, both when he was taking punishment and then dishing it out. A slow starter, Danny usually looked vulnerable in the first round or two, eating punch after punch, before he found his rhythm and started making the other guy pay dearly for his transgressions. Soon enough, a thunderbolt knockout followed, courtesy of his vaunted right cross. Prime examples being his fights with Kenji Endo or Juan Malvarez. Before his Waterloo in the first Sanchez versus Lopez fight, Danny defended his title 8 times, in the process becoming one of the most popular boxers in America. His fights earning high ratings on national television. Now, no one expected anything different for Danny's 9th title defense, broadcast live on CBS from Phoenix, Arizona. Another obscure challenger? Surely another knockout for Little Red, right? That's what they thought. Surely another knockout for Little Red, right? But Right there, Sanchez calmly repelling the champion's aggressions. Okay, surely another knockoff for Little Red, right? But it didn't work out that way. No one north of the border could know it at the time, but the 21-year-old Salvador Sanchez was much more than just another contender. A gifted counterpuncher, Sanchez had patience and maturity beyond his years, along with quick hands, exceptional stamina, and a rock-solid chin. As early as the second round, it looked like it was going to be a long and painful afternoon for Lopez, as the challenger connected far too frequently with damaging power shots, especially the counter right hand. The loyal fans of Little Red waited patiently for his trademark comeback, but by round 4, Danny's left eye was swelling shut, and by the 6th round, a bad cut had opened over the right eye. Yeah, this wasn't the normal Danny Lopez title defense this time. Right there's Salvador landing a jab. But the vast majority are clean shots. But there's Lopez landing a jab. But the vast majority of the clean shots came from Sanchez. Okay? The battle was fast-paced, but one-sided. Bouncing on the balls of his feet, Sanchez would move in with the cool efficiency of a remorseless assassin to land his left hook or counter right, and then, just as swiftly and smoothly, move out of range. Lopez never stopped trying, but he lacked the quickness to connect with force and consistency. In round 7, the action heated up as Sanchez, with no fear of Danny's power, elected to stand and trade. And Little Red, game as ever, took the fight to the challenger. But while both men were throwing big punches, the only one scoring clean shots was Sanchez. At the end of the round, an overhand right buckled Lopez's knees. Buckled his knees. It was more the same in round 8 and 9 before Lopez finally asserted himself in the 10th round, backing Sanchez up and timing his right hand better. But he couldn't hurt the unflappable challenger. And the following round saw a return to a clinical beatdown from Sanchez. The sheer number of clean, sharp blows Lopez was taking had to be alarming for both his fans and his corner, not to mention the millions watching on live television. But as everyone knew, there was no quit in Little Red. His only hope now was that Sanchez might tire, but the Mexican appeared just as sharp in round 12 as he had in round 1. By this point, he was hurting Lopez in almost every exchange, but Danny never stopped trying to land the one big shot that might turn things around. Never stopped trying for that one big shot. In round 13, 2 clean right hands staggered Lopez yet again, and the referee, knowing Lopez had to be saved from his own courage, stepped between the fighters to raise the hand of Sanchez. The gifted boxer they called Chava, perhaps the greatest of all the great Mexican boxers, would then embark on an extraordinary run. 10 title defenses in fewer than 18 months, including a rematch win over Lopez, and victories against such formidable battlers and champions as Ruben Castillo, Juan Laporte, Wilfredo Gomez, and Azuma Nelson. Those were huge names in the early 80s. Let me say them again. Sanchez had wins over formidable fighters such as Ruben Castillo, Juan Laporte, Wilfredo Gomez, and Azuma Nelson. Anybody that followed boxing in the 80s know those were 4 huge names back then, and Sanchez had wins over all of them. Killed in a car accident in 1982, the title he took from Lopez with such authority was his until the day he died. and Salvador Sanchez will forever be regarded as one of the greatest champions in featherweight history. Okay, so that's the fight of the day. Salvador Sanchez over Danny Little Red Lopez. Okay, so now let's get to today's show, the life and career of Terence Bud Crawford. Okay, bear with me for a moment, please. Okay, bear with me. Okay. All right, Terence Bud Crawford today. Life and career. We're going to take a look at his life from the beginning all the way up to that incident a couple of weeks ago when the police stopped. We're going to have all of that. Yep. So how's everybody? It's Friday, back at the weekend. Got some live boxing tomorrow. No big names, but it's boxing. Okay. Terence Allen Crawford, an American professional boxer. Now, he has held 18 different major world championships in 5 weight classes, from lightweight all the way to super middleweight, including the undisputed championships at junior welterweight, and super middleweight, right? He's the first ever male 3-weight undisputed world champion in the 4-belt era. And he's only the second boxer in history to capture 3 undisputed championships in 3 divisions. Okay, first male boxer to do it in 2, and also the first male boxer to do it in 3 divisions. The GOAT was the first one to do it in 3. And he was the first to be 4-belt undisputed at both junior welterweight and welterweight. And he has held the undisputed super middleweight title since September 2025, just a few weeks ago. Okay. He's held that title for just a couple of weeks. Now, let's take a look at some of his numbers, okay? Of course, his ring name is Bud, Terence Bud Crawford, nicknamed Bud. He's fought in 5 divisions in his career: lightweight, junior welterweight, junior middleweight, and super middleweight. Bud is 5 foot 8 inches tall. He has a 74-inch reach, and he fights. He's a switch hitter, southpaw and orthodox. He currently has a total of 42 fights, 42 wins, no losses, 31 knockouts, 73.8% knockout ratio for Bud. Okay, 73.8, not too bad. Okay, Mike Rim in the building. What's up, Mike? How are you today? Terence Bud Crawford just finished the fight up today. Salvador Sanchez defeated Danny Little Red Lopez in their first fight, and he did defeat him and also defeated him in the rematch. In 2014, Crawford traveled overseas to fight Ricky Burns and won his first world championship, which was the WBO lightweight title. After 2 successful defenses, he moved up to junior welterweight in 2015 and defeated Thomas Delorme for the vacant WBO junior welterweight title. In 2017, Crawford had a short reign as the undisputed junior welterweight champion, being the first since Kostya Tszyu in 2004, and the first in any weight class to simultaneously hold all 4 major world titles since Jermaine Taylor in 2005. Male, because we had some females to do it. You know, the GOAT and Katie Taylor and the Swedish, I can't never remember her name, the Swedish lady. But Bud was the first male since Jermaine Taylor in 2005. In 2023, he defeated Earl Spence Jr. to become the undisputed welterweight champion, the first undisputed welterweight champion since Zab Judah in 2006. In 2024, he moved up to junior middleweight and defeated Israel Madrimov to become a quadruple champion. In 2025, Crawford defeated Canelo Alvarez by unanimous decision to capture the undisputed super middleweight championship, becoming one of only 6 male boxers in history to win world championships in 5 divisions. Okay, 6 big names too: Thomas Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, Oscar De La Hoya, Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, and Terence Crawford. He is in lofty company right there. One of 6 boxers to win titles in 5 different divisions. Lofty company. All Hall of Famers, right? He's the only other ones to win titles in 5 divisions other than Bud is all Hall of Famers, okay? Now, Crawford is the only boxer in history to hold a Ring Magazine title in 4 divisions, and he joined Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather Jr. as the only fighters to become 4 division lineal champions. And he is also one of 2 boxers in history to have won world titles at both lightweight and super middleweight. Okay, I think maybe Roberto Duran might be the other. Okay. Now, throughout his 17-year professional career, Crawford has never been knocked down, nor has a single judge ever scored a fight in favor of his opponent. His streak of 11 consecutive knockouts in world title fights is tied for the 3rd longest in boxing history. Crawford was named Fighter of the Year by the Boxing Writers Association of America in 2014 and by ESPN in 2014 and 2017. He's also received the Best Fighter Boxer ESPY Award in 2018 and 2024. Consistently ranked among the top boxers of his generation, Crawford is considered one of the greatest boxers of all time. He was recognized as the world's top pound-for-pound boxer by the Boxing Writers Association of America from October 2017 to May 2018. Again in June 2022, and by the Ring Magazine from July 2023 to May 2024. And again, since September 2025. Yeah, the argument for pound is over. After what God did a couple weeks ago. Monster Usyk is 2 and 3, whichever order you want to put him in. But no argument about number 1. Got to be Bud Crawford. Let's take a look at his early life. Got to be Bud Crawford, pound for pound, right there in the sport. Not even arguable. Anybody said Usyk or Monster got to be just the biggest Usyk Monster fanboys in the world that's still saying they could be picked pound for pound number 1 over Bud Crawford right now. Okay. Let's take a look at his early life. There's a young Bud Crawford. Now, Crawford was born and raised in Omaha, Nebraska as the only son born to Debbie and Terence Crawford Sr. He grew up in a dangerous area, which was known for poverty, crime, and violence, which made it difficult for him to navigate in his youth. Now, the Crawford family frequently faced financial challenges, often struggling to afford basic necessities. At an early age, Bud was often involved in physical altercations and was kicked out of 5 different schools because of it. As his father was in the U.S. Navy, he was rarely home, leaving his mother to raise him by herself. And she often beat him with a belt and even tried paying neighborhood kids to pummel him, although none ever succeeded. None ever succeeded. Bud found solace in boxing at the CW Boxing Club in North Omaha. His grandfather, father, and uncle had all trained there. Now, the gym's owner, Carl Washington, who was also Bud's neighbor, approached Bud when he was 7 years old, recommending he join the gym. Now, Crawford began frequenting the gym and was eventually mentored by Midge Minor, who became a father figure to him. Now, he constantly picked up Crawford after school and paid close attention to him, fearing that he may become involved in the rampant crime in the neighborhood, right? Now, introduced to wrestling by a close family friend, Bud embraced the sport early on, developing skills that later shaped his distinctive wrestling-influenced boxing style. In 2001, Bud began training under Brian Bomac McIntyre and Esau Dieguez, who remained his trainers. Okay, take a look at Bud's amateur career now. Look at his amateur career. Okay. Here we go. Okay, amateur career for Terence Bud Crawford. Now, Crawford took up boxing at the age of 7. He fought 70 official amateur fights, losing 12 times. As an amateur, he defeated future world champions Mikey Garcia and Danny Garcia, as well as Diego Magdalena, whom he beat 3 times in the amateurs. After winning 3 amateur tournaments shortly before the 2008 Olympics, he became the highest ranked lightweight in the United States. However, his loss to leading contender Saddam Ali thwarted his Olympic ambitions, right? And getting his amateur record, 70 fights, 58 wins, 12 losses as an amateur for Bud. Okay, so now let's move on to their professional career. Okay, let's take a look at Bud's pro career now. All right. That's early career. Again, started out at lightweight. Started out as a lightweight, 135. Okay. Now, Crawford made his professional debut on March 14th, 2008, knocking out Brian Cummings in the first round. He compiled a record of 19-0 with 15 wins by way of knockout against largely unheralded opposition. Okay. So his first notable fight was against Breeders Prescott on the undercard of the second fight between Brandon Rios and Mike Alvarado. Now, Prescott was originally scheduled to face WBA junior welterweight champion Khabib Akhlaverdiev, who withdrew with an injured elbow. Now, Crawford was originally supposed to meet Robert Osobe on the same card, but accepted the offer to fill in for the other guy, Akhlaverdiev, on 3 days' notice or something like that. All I know, it starts with an A. But anyway, Crawford filled in for him on 3 days' notice. He was already on the card against somebody else, but then when this guy got injured 3 days before the fight, Bud took the fight, filled in. And he defeated the Colombian Breeders Prescott by unanimous decision. He received the purse of $125,000, while Prescott received $50,000. This was the first time Bud fought a 10-round fight, and his first time fighting at the 140-pound limit. Okay, yeah, that was that. His first big step up was at 140. Okay, so now Crawford versus Sanabria. Donnie Williams, what's up, Donnie? In the building. Talking about Bud Crawford today. Okay. Terence Bud Crawford. Salute, Donnie. Good to see you. Yeah, this is him and Sanabria right there. Now, Crawford fought Alejandro Sanabria on June 15th, 2013. Okay? This fight was held at the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas. And the fight served as a title eliminator for the WBO lightweight title. So he went back down to lightweight. And it was also for the vacant WBO NABO lightweight title. Now, after a slow start in rounds 1 and 2, yeah, typical of Crawford, slow start in rounds 1 and 2, he outlanded Sanabria 2-1 in power shots over the next 3 rounds. And the fight ended just after the bell rang to start the 6th round. Crawford charged forward, landing a precise left hook to Sanabria's jaw that sent him crashing to the canvas, head first, right? Now, though Sanabria was able to return to his feet at the count of 7, he was left staggered, which caused the fight to be waved off by referee Lawrence Cole, giving Crawford a technical knockout. Okay? So next, Crawford versus Klimov. Klimov. K-L-I-N-O-V. Klimov. There's Crawford and Klimov. Well, there's Crawford. No Klimov. But Crawford versus Klimov. Andrei Klimov, Russian boxer. On August 21st, 2013, it was announced that Crawford would fight undefeated Russian boxer and WBO number 12 ranked Andrei Klimov in another elimination fight, which would see the winner challenge WBO champion Ricky Burns. Now, the fight was scheduled for 10 rounds and took place on the undercard of Miguel Cotto versus Delvin Rodriguez. It was on HBO at the Amway Center in Orlando, Florida, October 5th. Now, Klimov was coming off a majority decision win over French contender John Molina Jr. in June 2013, who Crawford later fought, John Molina Jr. After 10 rounds, all 3 judges scored the fight 190 in Crawford's favor, a shutout. And this was Klimov's first defeat as a pro, and he got shut out. According to CompuBox, Crawford had 102 or 604 punches, 32%, and Klimov only landed 20%. In the fight interview, Crawford spoke on how he went in and got the job done. I outboxed him. It was easy all night long. I thought I was hurting him all night long. I was never in any trouble, and I thought he was in trouble. Due to Klimov's lack of action, it prompted a member of his team to call him a coward after round 8 in the corner. Wow. His own team called him a coward. Okay, so now, Ricky Burns. Crawford versus Burns. Now, Crawford traveled to Scotland 5 months later to take on 30-year-old Ricky Burns for the WBO lightweight title on March 1st, 2014. Burns' promoter, Eddie Hearn, said he was pleased to bring the fight to Scotland and admitted it was Burns' toughest fight to date. Right? Yeah. Eddie Hearn said it. Bud would be Ricky Burns' toughest fight to date. Now, both fighters were cautious in the early rounds, with Burns' jab making an early impact. Now, Crawford adjusted in the second round, neutralizing Burns' jab, while the third round was a near draw. The action heated up in the 5th round as Crawford began to showcase his offensive skills, despite the tactical nature of the fight, with both boxers using feints, jabs, and lateral movement to disrupt each other. Crawford took control and set the pace. From that moment, the outcome seemed inevitable. Now, Burns tried to stand his ground in the 7th round, attempting to go toe-to-toe with Crawford. But Crawford's hard jab and aggressive approach soon took over. In the 8th round, Crawford was punishing Burns with heavy shots. He continued to outwork and outland Burns in the championship rounds. By the 12th, Crawford was pouring on the pressure, looking to finish, but Burns remained upright and made it to the final bell. Now, Crawford won the fight, boxing well on the outside and picking his shots against Burns, becoming the first Nebraska native in 100 years to win a world title. And the judges scored the fight. 117, 111, and two had it 116, 112, all in favor of Crawford. Burns praised Crawford after the fight, simply stating, "The better man won." Over the 12 rounds, Crawford landed 213 of 811 punches thrown, 26%, 41% of his power shots, and Burns landed 14%, okay? And for the fight, Burns landed 7 power punches in total for the fight, okay? So Bud is now the WBO champion. Then, Yuriorkis Gamboa, Crawford versus Gamboa. Now, fighting for the first time as a professional in his hometown of Omaha, Nebraska, Bud made his first title defense against 2004 Cuban Olympic gold medalist and former IBF featherweight champion, Yuriorkis Gamboa. This was only the second title fight ever held in Omaha, the first being in 1972, when heavyweight champion Joe Frazier defeated the Omaha Council Bluffs product Ron Stander by 4th round TKO. Okay. Now Gamboa entered having not fought in over a year. The fight was announced on May 6th and took place at the Century Link Center on June 28, 2014. Crawford weighed in at 134.8 pounds, slightly heavier than Gamboa at 134.4 pounds, okay? Bud came in a little heavier than Gamboa. Now, Gamboa won the early round, Bud doing his usual download. Gamboa won the early rounds using his speed advantage. But Crawford eventually adjusted, knocking Gamboa down once in the 5th round and again in the 8th, and finally twice in the 9th round to secure a TKO victory in front of a sold-out hometown crowd of 10,943 fans. Now, Crawford stated after the fight, "I was warming up, getting used to his style in the first couple of rounds. I just wanted to test him out. I felt like I could make an adjustment with my jab because he's always dropping his left hand. I thought I could get him with my jab in the southpaw stance." At the time of the stoppage, Crawford was ahead 78-72 on 2 cards and 78-73 on the other card. Okay, so a wide win for Crawford. Okay, Crawford versus Beltran. Crawford versus Beltran. Ray Beltran. There they are. Crawford made his second defense of the WBO title against the Ring Magazine #1 contender, Ray Beltran. Now, the winner of this fight would become the Ring's lightweight champion. And the fight was held in front of 11,000 fans at the Century Link Center back in Omaha, Nebraska on November 29th, 2014. Okay? The second consecutive fight in Omaha. Omaha. Remember Peyton Manning used to say that? Okay, wait a minute. Yeah, that's him and Beltran. Now, early in the fight, both Crawford and Beltran had their moments, with Crawford controlling the action through stance switching and a steady jab, while Beltran landing his powerful right hand occasionally, right? Now, in the 4th round, Beltran pushed Crawford back with a hard shot, but Crawford quickly regained control. This pattern repeated in several rounds, with Crawford asserting dominance each time. In the later rounds, Crawford pressed for a stoppage, but Beltran held his ground. Ultimately, there was no doubt who the top lightweight was. Crawford retained his world title, earning a 12-round unanimous decision win. Final scorecards were 120-108 and 119-109 twice, widely in favor of Crawford. One judge had a shutout, and the other two gave Beltran exactly all of 1 round. After the fight, Crawford announced his intentions to leave the lightweight division to fight as a junior welterweight, right? So yeah, after that. And he was named 2014 Fighter of the Year by ESPN and the Boxing Writers Association of America after destroying Ricky Burns that same year, 2014. That's him and the Burns and Beltran fights for both that year, and that earned him Fighter of the Year. And taking the title from Ricky Burns went a long ways to earning him those honors. Fighter of the Year for 2014. Okay? But Crawford. So then, Crawford versus Delorme. Thomas Delorme. Okay, yeah, Thomas Delorme. On March 6, 2015, ESPN reported that Crawford would debut as a junior welterweight, challenging for the vacant WBO title at the College Park Center in Arlington, Texas, against 25-year-old Thomas Delorme on April 18th. At the press conference, Crawford told Delorme, "Come prepared, because be ready," right? The fans should expect a spectacular victory. This is my second world title at a different weight, and I'm really going to be up for it. I will be prepared. I am always ready and prepared for any fight. Okay? This is what Crawford told Delorme at the press conference. So what happened? Did Delorme make Bud eat his words, or did Bud? What happened? Let's see what happened. Now, early in the fight, Delorme was outworking Crawford, but it seemed to be part of Crawford's strategy. He was betting on Delorme tiring out, and that's exactly what happened. By the 4th round, Crawford began using his jab more frequently, setting the stage for what was to come. That jab would serve as the perfect setup for the big punches later in the fight. In the 6th round, Crawford feinted with the jab and then landed a left-right combination that hurt Delorme. 25-year-old Puerto Rican staggered back and took a knee. Now he got back up before the count, right, of 10, but he was dropped twice more in the same round. The second knockdown ended the fight as Delorme was unable to continue, and Crawford secured his first world title at 140 pounds. Remember, he later became undisputed there. Referee Rafael Ramos stopped the fight at 1 minute, 51 seconds of the round. Okay? And the fight averaged 11,000 viewers on HBO. 11,000 viewers on HBO. Wow. Crawford versus John. Crawford versus John. Okay? But you know, he with the Bob father, right? So Top Rank announced on August 20th that Crawford would make his first defense at the Century Link Center in Omaha, Nebraska on October 24th against Montreal-based 33-year-old contender Jerry John. This is his first defense at 140 now, right? Now, John's only previous loss as a pro had come in 2014 against junior welterweight champion Lamont Peterson in Peterson's hometown of Washington, D.C., after which John dropped down to lightweight, where he won 4 fights in a row. Okay? But now he's back up at junior welterweight again, going up against the champion, Terence Bud Crawford. Okay, excuse me for one moment. Oh, there we go. I had lost where I was at on my images. There we go. That's him and John after the fight had started now. Now, the first round was a typically cagey, measured start by Crawford up until the final seconds, when he switched to a southpaw stance and stuck John with a hard left and a right hook that sent him to the canvas. Dropped John in the first round. Started out orthodox and then switched to a southpaw in the last seconds and dropped John. Now, dominating the middle rounds, Crawford pounced on John whenever he saw his guard drop, even a little. He landed a couple of powerful hooks on John at the end of the 9th round, sending him to the canvas again. right? Walter getting to his feet, it was clear John had nothing left in the 10th round, forcing referee Tony Weeks to step in and stop the fight in front of an audience of 11,000. And Crawford landed a 40% clip for this fight. Power shots, it's not bad, 40%. And over the last 3 rounds, Crawford outlanded John 59 punches to 9. Okay, yeah, John clearly had nothing left. After the fight, Crawford stated that he was ready for former 8th division world champion Manny Pacquiao. I'm ready, Bob. Make it happen. I'm ready. I'm going to let my handlers, Cameron Duncan and Brian McIntyre, talk to Bob Arum and Team Pacquiao, and let's see if we can make it happen. Now, Crawford, at the time of the stoppage, Crawford was ahead on all 3 judges' scorecards. 89 to 80, 90, 79 twice. Doing a shutout. And it was broadcast on HBO, drawing an average of 1.7 million viewers. And it peaked at 1.2. Okay. Hank Lundy is the next victim for Bud Crawford. Hank was talking big trash in the press conference, remember? Hank was talking big trash, what he was going to do to Bud. Wait a minute, that's not Hank Lundy, that's Postal. I got Hank Lundy. Oh boy, what's going on here? Bear with me for a minute. That done jumped. There's him and Hank. Okay, there's him and Hank. Crawford versus Lundy. Remember, Lundy was talking big trash. Now, Bud's next fight took place before a sellout crowd of 5,092 at the theater of Madison Square Garden, February 27, 2016, against Hank Lundy. Now, panned as a second-rate fight for the undefeated Crawford, the fight picked up considerable steam in the weeks leading up to the telecast, as Lundy boldly predicted a knockout. Yeah, Lundy said he was going to stop Bud. Yeah. But guess what? I believe he got stopped. Let's see. Lundy said he was going to stop Bud. Now, Bud quickly took control of the first 4 rounds of the fight. In the 5th round, Crawford landed a 1-2 combination capped by a powerful left hand that hurt Lundy. Now wobbled. Lundy was quickly swarmed by Crawford, and another hard left hand set into the ropes and then the canvas. As Lundy struggled to his feet, Crawford taunted him, keeping up the pressure. Lundy tried to fight back, but Crawford's assault was relentless, and referee Steve Willis stepped in to stop the fight, giving Crawford his 2nd straight title defense, right? And he connected at a 36% rate, Lundy at 22%. And Crawford spoke out about his feud with Lundy on social media. He said he and I had gone back and forth on Twitter for like a year. I just wanted to shut him up for good. And Crawford had 1.2 million for the fight. Lundy earned 150,000. Okay. Now, Victor Postall. Crawford versus Postall. Still at 140. Okay. Crawford versus Postall. Video. Okay, here we go. The Autism Boy, Cottage 81 in the building. What's up, Autism Boy? Good to see you again. Okay. And we have BVO Sports TV from the Sports Talk Network. What's up, BVO? How you doing today? The Autism Boy and BVO Sports TV. Both of these gentlemen have great channels. Subscribe to them if you haven't. BVO, Autism Boy. Put your links in if you feel like it and all that kind of good stuff. But salute. We're talking about Bud Crawford today. Let's continue. So we're going breaking our way through his resume, the major fight now, and we're up to Victor Postall. There they are right there. Crawford versus Postall. Now, on May 3rd, 2016, it was finally confirmed that Crawford and WBC champion Victor Postall had officially signed the contract for the highly anticipated junior welterweight unification fight on July 23rd at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. Okay, so remember, Bud got the WBO belt. He going for it. He got undisputed at junior welterweight. He going for his second title now. Post-star at the WBC. Now, both fighters entered the ring with a match record of 28 wins and no losses, right? And both men also entered the MGM Grand Garden Arena for the first time in their respective careers. Okay? Yeah. Both were 28-0 and first time both at the MGM Grand. Okay? Now, Crawford won by unanimous decision and unified 2 junior welterweight world titles before a crowd of 7,000. Crawford also claimed the vacant Ring Magazine title in this fight. He scored 2 flash knockdowns in the 5th round, with all 3 scorecards reading 118-107, 118-107 twice, and 117-108. Now, Post-star was penalized for rabbit punching in the 11th round when he hit Crawford with a right hand behind the head, for which Post-star was penalized 1 point, adding to Crawford's advantage, but he was still losing widely, so yeah, that didn't really make a difference. With the win, Crawford staked his undisputed claim to division supremacy, and he set himself up for bigger fights, possibly against the returning Manny Pacquiao. Okay? In the post-fight interview, Post-star praised Crawford, saying, "I thought it was a good fight between 2 technicians, but he was quicker than me. He is one of the best fighters in the world. I just didn't have any answers for him." And Crawford also praised his trainer, Brian Bomac McIntyre. He said, "Freddie Roach and Post-star said that Freddie would outcoach my coach, but you tell him who got outcoached tonight." Bomac revealed the plan was to keep Post-star moving, which would have eliminated his jab and right hand. Now, Crawford's purse for the fight was $1.3 million. Post-star earned $675,000 for the fight. Okay, bear with me for a minute. I got to do a little switcheroo here. The words get kind of small. Okay, but next was Molina. We're going to go to Molina. Okay, only take me a second to do this. Okay, where we at, Molina? Yeah. How's everybody today? It's Friday. We got some fights tomorrow, right? No big names, but hey, we're getting close to November, and that big Riyadh season card, the one headlined by Benavidez and Yard. That's the one, Devin, and the big fight on that card is Devin and Brian Norman. That's a main event anywhere in the world normally, but that's the co-main, right? So yeah, that's gonna be a good one. I got Devin by unanimous decision. Why unanimous decision? Who you got, BVO? Okay, I'm coming. I had to do a switcheroo real quick, but we're gonna get to it. Appreciate everybody that came through today. We're working our way through Bud's resume. When the Shelton ain't here, he's a big Bud fan. Shelton Moore. Oh, here we go. Okay, let's go. Crawford versus Molina. There they are. Is next. Now, Crawford was not due to fight next until 2017. However, due to the Golovkin-Jacobs fight, Triple G Danny Jacobs fight, being postponed to early 2017, this freed up the December 10th date for HBO. Now, the Godfather confirmed Crawford would take the date and look at potential opponents, including then IBF champion Edward Troyanovsky, I think. Troyanovsky, is that right? And Antonio Orozco. Now, the Godfather announced the deal was in place for a fight between Crawford and 33-year-old contender John Molina Jr. on December 10th, 2016, in Crawford's hometown, Omaha, Nebraska, back at the Century Link Center. Now, Molina had previously defeated Russian contender Ruslan Provodnikov by unanimous decision in a 12-round June 2016 fight, in which he also claimed the vacant WBO International light welterweight title. Now, Molina weighed 144 pounds at the official weigh-in, right? Which meant he lost the right to fight for Crawford's world titles. Yeah, Molina came in 4 pounds over. Wow. Had Crawford lost the fight, he would not have lost his belts. I thought they went vacant if the other guy was overweight, but wow, I guess it depends on the sanctioning body, because they're saying here the WBO and WBC, and since Molina was overweight, they're saying that if Molina had won, Crawford would still keep the belts because Molina was overweight. But I thought they went vacant. But who am I? I'm just a lowly box story. But anyway, if Crawford had lost the fight, he would not have lost his belts because Molina came in overweight. Now, for the fight to go ahead, Molina had to give $400,000 of his purse to Crawford for coming in overweight, right? But he was making $1.5 million for the fight, okay? Had to forfeit $400,000 to Bud for missing weight, though. Where in the world is the cursor at, man? There we go. Crawford and Molina, right? Okay. So, he had to forfeit $400,000 to Crawford. Now, Crawford held on to his title, stopping Molina in the 8th round in front of a large home crowd in Omaha, Nebraska. Crawford moved around the ring for most of the fight, jabbing, holding, and pot-shotting Molina. Referee Mark Nelson halted the fight in the 8th round after Molina received 3 consecutive hits to the head. In the post-fight interview, Crawford felt he should be the 2016 Fighter of the Year for his wins over Molina, Lundy, and Postall. Yeah, all those were in that year, 2016. Crawford said, "I feel like I got it. I just had to wait until the result is announced." Crawford also reiterated his desire to unify the division before a possible move up to welterweight. Okay, and he connected at 184 419 punches thrown. He didn't give me the percentage. Let me figure that percentage. Because Molina had 14%. Wow. Crawford landed 184 419. 184 419, which is 43.9%. Not bad. Molina had 14%. Right? Wow. Okay. So Crawford versus Diaz is next. Crawford versus Diaz. Here's him and Diaz. Mike Magic. Mike Magic, that's my guy, Bud. Yeah, we know, Mike. You called the Canelo fight. Yeah, we know. Okay, rub it in. I was wrong. I had Canelo. But salute Mike Magic in the building. Mike said, that's my guy, Bud. Okay, Bud versus Diaz. Now, the Godfather spoke to ESPN in early February 2017 about Crawford's next defense and possible opponents. He said the HBO had set a May 20th date for the fight, and the venue would most likely be in Crawford's hometown, back in Omaha again. The Mexican boxer Antonio Orozco, one of Crawford's mandatory challengers, and Olympic gold medalist Felix Diaz, who had been calling out Crawford, were the names mentioned. And the Godfather went on to explain. I like that name, the Godfather. He went on to explain how Orozco's promoters seemed to have little interest in the fight. Now, Lou DiBella, who was Orozco's promoter, was eager to make a fight happen. And the Godfather spoke to the Ring magazine on March 1st, saying that Crawford's opponents had been narrowed down to Diaz or Adam Granados. Right? But the Godfather said he found it difficult to make a deal with his promoter, Don King. Right? Now, Terence were finally agreed on March 22nd for Crawford versus Diaz at the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey on May 20th. Contracts were signed shortly after. Now, a week after the fight was announced, the location was changed. The new venue was confirmed to be Madison Square Garden in New York City. Remember, it was supposed to be in Omaha, Bud's hometown, but for some reason they changed it to the Garden. Okay? Changed from Omaha to the Garden. In front of a crowd of 8,000 at the Garden, Crawford retained his world titles after Diaz's trainer, Joe Diaz, stopped the fight after round 10. I don't think they related. Yeah, I don't think they related. Now, towards the end, Diaz did close to nothing, leaning against the ropes. This was mostly due to his vision, as his right eye was nearly closed, and his left eye was also badly swollen. Crawford used his jab for most of the fight and used it to control the pace and help him move around the ring in his southpaw stance. Now, Joe Diaz, the trainer, said in the post-fight interview that he had pulled his fighter out because he was taking too much punishment. Also in the post-fight, Crawford said, "It's not up to me, but everybody wants to know who's the next guy that Terence Crawford wants to fight. I'll fight anybody. It doesn't matter who it is." And he then called out Keith Thurman. And the Bobfather mentioned Crawford would likely fight again in the summer against Julius Ndongo, where the winner would be crowned the undisputed junior welterweight champion. Okay? Yeah. So they was trying to get the Ndongo fight next. And guess what? Next was the Ndongo fight. Undisputed in the junior welterweight, 140. Undisputed light welterweight championship. Terence Crawford versus Julius Ndongo. On July 1st, 2017, the Bobfather announced that a junior welterweight unification fight between Crawford and WBA regular and IBF champion Julius Ndongo was agreed, and it was to take place on August 19th at the Pinnacle Bank Arena in Lincoln, Nebraska, live on ESPN in the United States and Sky Sports in the United Kingdom. The WBA sanctioned the fight for the WBA super title with the unification of every major world title in boxing on the line. The WBA, the WBC, the IBF, and the WBO. And it would determine the junior welterweight division's first undisputed champion since Kasia Tszyu in 2004. And that was 3 belts. And the first time all the aforementioned titles have been at stake in a single fight since Bernard Hopkins versus Jermaine Taylor in 2005 for men, because the quote and the Swedish lady had won undisputed by then. The Swedish Sophia, I can't think of her name, was the first woman to be 4-belt undisputed, and then the GOAT was second. So this was the first male fight for undisputed since 2005. And Bud had the WBO and the WBC, and Ndongo had the WBA and the IBF. Okay. Now both fighters paid over $100,000 in sanctioning fees. Wow. And Bud entered the fight as the heavy favorite. Yeah, Bud came in heavily favored to win this fight. But did Ndongo get the upset? Let's see. Did Ndongo upset Bud? Who became undisputed at 140? Let's see what happened. In front of a home crowd of 12,000, Crawford became the undisputed champion at junior welterweight after knocking out Ndongo in round 3. The final punch was a left hook to the right side of the body, which immediately stopped Ndongo. Ooh, liver shot. Referee Jack Reese counted to 10 and promptly called it in after 1 minute and 38 seconds. Ndongo also touched the canvas during round 1, but the referee ruled it a slip. Yeah, Jack Reese. Oh, garbage Jack Reese. Additionally, Ndongo was knocked down and received a count after a left from Crawford during round 2. Okay. Crawford landed 35%, and Ndongo landed 18%. Now, both fighters earned the undisclosed 7-figure purse. Both got 7 figures. Now, Crawford, after the fight, Crawford stated he had yet to make a decision on the next step in his career, but there was speculation that he was moving up to the welterweight division or defending his junior welterweight undisputed titles against Mikey, I see something Garcia. Well, Mikey, I thought I saw something Garcia. But he never fought Mikey, right? Never fought Mikey. Okay. So he did move up to welterweight. Okay. Yeah. He was unsure about his decision after the Ndongo fight, but he did move to welterweight after that. After he got that undisputed, that was his last fight at 140. Welterweight. On October 26, 2017, Bud officially vacated his WBO titles to move up to the welterweight division, 147. And the WBO announced Crawford as the mandatory challenger to their title holder, Jeff Horn. Now, with Horn scheduled to make a voluntary defense in December 2017 against British boxer Gary Cochran, Crawford would not fight again in 2017. Now, the winner of Horn versus Cochran was then ordered to schedule a fight against Crawford within 90 days. Now, the Godfather stated he had dates in March and April 2018 on hold for the fight. You know, the winner of Horn and Cochran. The Godfather already had a date ready in March and April 2018. Okay? Yeah, the Godfather already had a date ready. So it ended up being Horn winning the fight. Okay? So it was Crawford versus Horn. Crawford versus Horn. Now, Horn won the WBO welterweight title in a very controversial decision against Manny Pacquiao after he had successfully made the first defense of his crown. He won it against Pacquiao, okay? Then after he made the first defense against Cochran, this set up the fight between Crawford and Horn. Now, following his win over Cochran, Horn was challenged to a big money fight at junior middleweight by 42-year-old Anthony Mundine before eventually defending the WBO title against Crawford, right? The Horn admitted his interest in the fight, where it would be seeing a purse of around $2 million, with his trainer, Ben Rushton, also very much interested in the Mundine fight, right, at junior middleweight. But they probably would have stripped him because Crawford was his mandatory. But on January 10th, 2018, it was confirmed that all terms had been agreed upon for Horn to defend the WBO title in a mandatory defense against Crawford after negotiating the purse. Now, the fight was being slated for April 21st, 2018 at the T-Mobile Arena in Paradise, Nevada. Remember, the Godfather said he had a date ready for March or April, remember? So April 21st, 2018. Paradise, Nevada, T-Mobile. On January 17th, the Godfather stated the fight would likely take place at Madison Square Garden, as there was no availability in Las Vegas for the dates required. In February, the Godfather claimed that due to other boxing events taking place around New York in April, the Crawford versus Horn fight would take place in Las Vegas instead, where they originally said it would take place. On March 14th, it was reported that the fight would be postponed after Crawford suffered a hand injury while sparring. Then the fight was rescheduled to take place on June 9th at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Paradise, Nevada. It was reported on May 24th that Horn had been involved in a car accident involving 3 cars in Brisbane over in the UK. However, Horn himself confirmed that he was not hurt and did not suffer any injuries. Speaking to a newspaper, he said, "No one was badly hurt, but it stunned me. Fortunately, I was in the car alone, and my wife, Jo, and baby Isabel were home. The accident was a shock, but nothing is going to derail me from beating Terence Crawford. I'm very fit I feel I'm going to peak right at fight time. Okay? So this took a lot. This fight went through a lot making it, but they finally got it. Finally got it. And Horn said he's going to come in and beat Crawford's butt. So what happened? Let's see. Crawford versus Horn. Crawford became a 3-weight world champion in front of 8,112 fans in attendance after he eventually stopped Horn by TKO in round 9. At the time of the stoppage, all 3 judges had Crawford winning all the previous rounds. All 3 judges had a shutout. Horn lacked defense, but kept coming forward, trying to look for an opening. Now, Horn made the opening 2 rounds the most competitive with his aggressive style. But Crawford always downloaded in the first 2, so if he didn't make the first 2 rounds competitive, he had to be real solid. The other man just downloaded. But anyway, Horn made the first 2 rounds competitive with his aggressive style. But Bud adapted and remained the busier fighter throughout, landing the most telling shots of the fight. The Horn was eventually dropped for the first time in round 9 with an overhand left. After he got back up, Crawford landed a series of hard shots that caused referee Robert Byrd to stop the fight. The official time of the stoppage was 2 minutes and 33 seconds. After the fight, Crawford spoke about his welterweight debut. Like I told you all before, I'm strong. I was way stronger than him. You all kept telling me how strong he was, so I had to go and show you. I just had to get in the ring and prove it. You saw what I did in there. My power carried up, my physicality. Now I want all the champions at welterweight. And then the Godfather highly praised Crawford and compared him to Sugar Ray Leonard. Wow. Crawford landed 42%. Okay. And 47 power shots in the final 2 rounds. Horn just landed 23% for the fight. Crawford versus Benavidez. We just working our way through his resume, his major fights. Crawford versus Benavidez. Okay? Now, this was his first defense at welterweight, WBO. It was slated to take place on October 13th, 2018. The early reports stated his likely opponent would be former WBO interim junior welterweight champion, Jose Benavidez, brother of the Mexican Monster. At that time, Jose was 27 with 18 knockouts. Now, on September 6th, despite having 2 years left on his contract, Bud signed a new multi-year deal with Top Rank. On signing the extension, he said, I am the best fighter in the world, hands down. ESPN is the biggest brand in sports, and Top Rank is the biggest promotional company in boxing. This was a no-brainer for me and my team. All of the super fights that the world wants to see will happen. Like I said before, I want all of the champions in the welterweight division. The fight against Benavidez was also announced by Top Rank to take place at the CHI Health Center in Omaha, Nebraska. Okay, back at home in Omaha. He changed his tune on Top Rank later on, though. Ended up suing him, remember? We're going to get to that. This might be a 2-parter. I don't know. It's 315. But in front of 13,323 people in attendance, the largest crowd he had drawn to date, Crawford came on strong in the final round to score a 12th round knockout win to retain his WBO welterweight title. The fight was halted at 2 minutes and 42 seconds of the final round. Crawford used an in-and-out style of fighting to land his shots, and then got away before Benavidez could hit him. Now, towards the end of round 12, Crawford knocked Benavidez down, who fought with an injured knee with a left-right combination. That's what he dropped him with in the final round, right? And the final punch of the combination was the right uppercut. After Benavidez got back to his feet, Crawford landed a flurry of punches until referee Celestino Ruiz stepped in. You're one of the greatest finishers in history. Bud is. Yeah. He landed head and body combinations earlier in the fight, which forced Benavidez to take a step back. And Bud credited the body shot, saying, "That takes something out of you every time." That's what slowed him down. You could tell every time he was shaking his head. I knew it would take its toll in the later rounds. And at the time of the stoppage, Bud was ahead 110-99, 108, 101, and 107, 102. Benavidez pretty much needed a knockout at the time of the stoppage. Amir Khan. Then came Amir Khan. Define Arnie One in the building. What's up, Define Arnie One? How are you today? Salute. Another great channel. Define Arnie One. The time you've been coming on, Define Arnie One, I've been missing you. Okay? But it's Friday. If you come on, I'll probably catch you tonight if you come on. But salute Define Arnie One. Working our way through Bud Crawford's resume. Now, Amir Khan. On November 16th, Aegis Kavaliauskas knocked out Roberto Ariaza in the third round of their fight. After the fight, the Bob father hinted Kavaliauskas would likely challenge Crawford for the WBO welterweight title in early 2019. Now, Kavaliauskas stated he wanted to fight the best in the division and called out Crawford. Now, a week later, it was reported 37-year-old former world champion Luis Collazo was in line to challenge Crawford in what would be Crawford's first of 3 fights in 2019. And the fight would main event a top-ranked card on ESPN on March 23rd at Madison Square Garden, 2019. Now, prior to pursuing a fight with Collazo, Carl Moretti told Ring TV they offered, then Carl Moretti is a top-ranked official, he told Ring TV that they had offered Danny Garcia a guaranteed $3 million purse to fight Crawford. For all the people that say Crawford didn't fight the big fights, they offered Danny Garcia $3 million to fight him. But this is what happened. They offered Danny Garcia $3 million to fight Crawford on ESPN pay-per-view, which would have included a share of the revenue generated. $3 million up front and a share of the revenue generated. The offer was made to Angel Garcia, his father, who told Moretti he would discuss the offer with his son, but ultimately never replied to Top Rank's offer. So there you have it. Danny Garcia was offered $3 million plus part of the pay-per-view revenue, but him and his father never responded. Okay? So that ain't Bud's fault that they never responded. That was his biggest payday, but he never responded. Now, according to Moretti, the offer was made 2 weeks before Garcia's fight with Adrian Granados was announced. Instead, they fought Adrian Granados for much less money. Danny Garcia didn't want that noise, okay? He didn't want anything to do with Bud. Turned down his biggest payday. 2 weeks later, announced to fight somebody else for less money. Okay? People got to do their research before they start these talking points, you know? Now, although Collazo had agreed the terms to fight Crawford was yet to sign it. Although Collazo had agreed the terms to fight, Crawford had yet to sign the agreement. On December 3rd, it was reported that Top Rank had offered Amir Khan a guaranteed $5 million purse, plus a percentage of pay-per-view revenue to fight Crawford on March 23rd, 2019. Khan explained how he was considering the fight as it would be a good payday for the WBO welterweight title. And Amir Khan took the fight. Now, Khan stated the fight with Kell Brook, who he was in negotiations with over a big domestic showdown, could still take place at a later date. Khan said, forget the Kell Brook fight, he took the Crawford fight, $5 million plus part of the pay-per-view revenue. Okay? On January 4th, 2019, with no opponent announced, Crawford scheduled a return to the ring Crawford's scheduled return to the ring was pushed back to April 20th, 2019. A few hours after, it was reported that Khan accepted Top Rank's offer to fight Crawford on April 20th. A press conference was set for January 15th in London, and the fight was made official to take place on ESPN pay-per-view on April 20th, 2019. Khan admitted it was a hard decision to make when choosing to fight Crawford over longtime rival Brook, as the fight with Crawford would see his legacy enhanced further. Khan also believed winning another world title against a consensus pound-for-pound boxer would be a bigger acknowledgement than defeating Kell Brook. And Khan also revealed he would return to veteran trainer Virgil Hunter for the Crawford fight. The Hunter was unable to train Khan for his previous two fights due to a health scare. Now, after the press conferences concluded, New York Madison Square Garden was chosen as the venue for the Khan-Crawford fight, right? Yeah, so Danny Garcia turned it down. Amir Khan stepped up to the plate. So there was an offer made to Danny Garcia and his father to fight Crawford. For all the people saying, well, he didn't fight Danny Garcia, he didn't fight Mikey Garcia. Offers were made. The offers were turned down. Danny Garcia turned down his biggest payday to fight somebody else for less money. Okay? So the Amir Khan fight took place on April 20th in front of over 14,000 in attendance and ended in controversial circumstances when Crawford won by technical knockout in the 6th round due to an accidental low blow. Crawford knocked Khan down in the 1st round with a powerful overhand right towards the end of the round. Crawford continued to control the fight, utilizing his skills, speed, and power. He landed significant punches while Khan struggled to keep pace. Now, the fight took a controversial turn in the 6th round when Crawford landed an accidental low blow. Khan was given time to recover, but notably chose not to continue, leading to the referee stopping the fight and awarding Crawford a TKO victory. The incident prompted debate regarding whether Khan was truly unable to continue or if he took the opportunity to exit a losing fight. He still got that $5 million payday. At the time of the stoppage, Crawford led on all three scorecards, 50-44 on 1, 49-45 on 2. Okay? I don't blame Amir. Give me my $5 million and count up that pay-per-view revenue. I want my share of that too. That's what you promised me. You hit me low, I'm hurt. I don't blame him. Okay. Aegis Kavalauskas was the next fight. Aegis Kavalauskas. They have been called for the opportunity since November 2016. Aegis Kavalauskas eventually faced Crawford on December 14, 2019 at Madison Square Garden. Okay? Kavalauskas have been called for this fight for a few years. Okay? Now, Crawford set the tone from the opening bell with a sharp jab, establishing control over the pace and distance. The second round mirrored the first, a tightly contested technical battle between the two. In the third, Kavalauskas seemed to stun Crawford as he came forward. Crawford went down, but the referee ruled it a slip. Staying composed, Crawford landed a combination when they exchanged punches. In the fourth round, Crawford resumed his jab, throwing fluid combinations and pushing back his challenger, a strategy he maintained into the fifth round. The Kavalauskas mounted the challenge in the sixth, keeping the fight close, though Crawford retained the upper hand. By the seventh round, they were exchanging heavy shots at close range, and Crawford dropped Kavalauskas with a hook. However, the bell rang before he could finish. Now, Crawford took control again in the eighth round, using his superior boxing and precision punches. In the ninth, a barrage of strikes put Kavalauskas down again. and a third knockdown soon followed, leading to the stoppage and the Crawford victory. And at the time of the stoppage, Crawford had landed 128 total punches, while Kavaliauskas connected 118, marking the most punches any opponent had landed against Crawford up to that point in his career. Okay? Now, regarding the controversial knockdown, Crawford later admitted there was, in fact, a knockdown to a small group of reporters, saying, "You scored a knockdown and got knocked out," right? That's what he said. Kavaliauskas scored a knockdown, but he ended up getting knocked out. Okay? Kell Brook. Kell Brook. That was Kavaliauskas, right? Yeah. Crawford versus Brook. Crawford versus Brook is next. It's getting late. Okay. On August 25th, 2020, the Bob father revealed that discussions were ongoing for Crawford to face the Kell Brook, with November 14th, 2020 being the targeted date. Now, Crawford's camp first attempted to arrange a fight with Josecito Lopez, who, however, opted to face Maurice Hooker. Now, the fight with Brook was officially announced on October 6, 2020, and was held at the MGM Grand Conference Center in Paradise, Nevada. That was when the bubble and all that stuff was going on, remember? Now, Crawford entered the fight as a significant favorite, with most odds makers having him as a minus 1439 favorite. Okay, Crawford came in favored for the fight. Now, both boxers started slowly in the first round, with only a few jabs exchanged. The second round continued at a measured pace, with both landing punches in a tactical close contest. Crawford found more success in the third round, using his southpaw stance effectively. In the fourth, a powerful right hand dropped Brook as he stumbled backward, using the ropes to stay upright. Once the action resumed, Crawford relentlessly attacked, stopping the former IBF champion at the 114-minute mark. Yeah, Bud is one of the best finishers in boxing history. Okay. And he outlanded Brook 36-26 in total punches landed, 20-12 in power punches. Now, at the time of the stoppage, Brook was leading on the scorecards. Okay. Two judges had to fight 29-28. It was only the third round, though, right? So, yeah. Next came Showtime. Showtime Shawn Porter against Bud Crawford. July 22nd, 2021. The WBO ordered that Crawford defend his welterweight title against the number 2 ranked WBO welterweight contender, Showtime Shawn Porter. Now, the two sides were unable to negotiate the terms of the fight. The WBO set a purse bid for September 2nd, 2021, which was later postponed until September 14th. Now, Crawford and Porter would adhere to a 60-40 purse split rather than the usual 80-20 split for mandated matches, taking into account the earnings from their 3 previous fights. September 14th, it was announced that a deal had been agreed to stage the fight on November 20th at the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas, Nevada. Okay? So Crawford versus Showtime Shawn. In a close, competitive fight, both men were cut from accidental head clashes. In the 10th round, Crawford caught Porter coming in with a well-timed left uppercut, sending him to the canvas. Now, Crawford scored another knockdown shortly after. Porter got up and wanted to continue, but his father in his corner threw in the towel, handing Crawford a 10th round TKO victory. Now, Crawford outlanded Porter in punches with 98-79, although Porter had landed more power shots, 67-65. It was a close fight at the time of the stoppage. Yep. So after that, During his post-fight interview, Crawford announced his split with promoter The Godfather and departure from Top Rank, opting instead to test free agency. He hadn't sued the Godfather. I don't think he had sued the Godfather yet. So now we're coming up on the Earl Spence situation. But before we got to that, we had David, whatever his name is. What's his name? David Avenesian. Oh, that's right, ain't it? David Avenesian. Crawford versus Avenesian. People got all kinds of names for that guy. David Avenesian, though. On October 21st, 2022, Crawford was announced to make the sixth defense of his WBO welterweight championship against David Avenesian on December 10th, 2022, because remember the talks between him and Earl had fell apart. This was going to be in Omaha, Nebraska, on the legendary BLK Prime. The legendary BLK Prime. Legendary fly-by-night operation. Legendary fly-by-night operation, BLK Prime. But it was 14,630 people in the building for that fight. Yup. Against Avenesian. Now, Crawford scored a 6th-round knockout against Avenesian. Now, the fight commenced with Crawford adopting a conventional stance, but quickly transitioned to a southpaw position, which he maintained throughout the fight. Avenesian initiated the fight with an aggressive approach, landing several effective shots, but Crawford gradually asserted control by implementing a focused body attack and utilizing movement to avoid incoming punches. Now, the fight showcased competitive exchanges, particularly notable in rounds 4 and 5, during which both fighters delivered significant strikes. In the 6th round, Crawford's combination of left uppercuts and body shots proved to be too much for Avenesian, resulting in a knockout. And the referee stopped the fight without even administering a count. And Avenesian came in on a 6-fight knockout streak, but that loss proved to be the end of it, his 6-fight knockout streak. All right, so you know what came after that. Yeah, we're going to get through. We're winding down. The airport is in sight over there in the distance. Okay. Undisputed welterweight championship. Terence Bud Crawford versus Earl the Truth Spence. Now, Crawford and the WBA, Crawford had the WBO, Earl had the WBA, IBF, and WBC titles coming into this, right? They came to an agreement on all material terms for a title unification, which was expected to take place on November 19th, 2022. Now, the agreement included a bilateral rematch clause, with the winner of the fight earning the majority of the revenue in the rematch. 2 months later, it was revealed by both camps that negotiations had fallen through and they would be pursuing different fights. Now remember, Crawford went on and fought Avenesian, remember? The fight we just talked about. Now, potential dates were given up the fight between both men as June 17th and July 22nd of 23, when the negotiations had started back up. But both were proven false. Following this, on February 27, 2023, that's when Crawford was ordered by the WBO to make a mandatory title defense against the once defeated Alexis Rocha. Finally, on May 25, 2023, it was confirmed that Crawford and Spence would fight for the undisputed welterweight title on July 29, 2023 at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Spence had fought only 2 times in 4 years and was coming into the fight after 2 years of inactivity. He had also suffered 2 near-death car accidents. Okay? So now, wow, he hadn't fought since then. What's that, like 2 times in what, like 6 years? Coming into the Bud fight, it was 2 times in 4 years. This is 2 more years, so Earl has fought 2 times in 6 years, man. Wow. But okay, Earl and Bud. After his typical slow start in the first round, Crawford quickly took control of the fight in the second round. He dropped Spence with a counter jab, followed by a straight left hand. That was more of a flash knockdown, Crawford said of the second round knockdown after the fight. I caught him with the left. He didn't think I was coming back with the right. Spence managed to beat the count and kept trying to mount an offense, but Crawford's speed, precision, and power overwhelmed him throughout the fight. Crawford's jab was a standout weapon, not just a setup, but a dominant force that stopped Spence's momentum every time he tried to push forward. And they said that was by design. All through camp, they had doing that power jab, practiced that power jab in camp because they wanted to stop Earl in his tracks because he was a very strong fighter coming forward. And it worked. Every time damn near in the fight, Earl tried to mount an attack, their jab stopped him in his tracks. Y'all saw it. As the rounds progressed, Spence struggled to get anything going. Crawford's jab, and I was for Earl, by the way. I picked Earl. I ain't picking against Bud no damn more. I picked Canelo too. Now Crawford's jab and Chris' straight left hands kept him on the defense, kept Earl on the defense, leaving him with little chance to land an effective shot. Now despite hitting the canvas twice in the seventh round, Earl tried to rally, but Bud's relentless attack left him reeling. By the ninth round, Bud had completely broken Earl down, leaving the referee no other choice than to stop the fight at 2 minutes 32 seconds of the ninth round. By that point, Bud had outlanded Earl 185 to 96, almost doubled the total punches, right? 98 to 63 in power punches. So Bud took that one. He became undisputed in the second division in that fight. Okay, let's roll on. That was Earl and Bud. We had a lot to talk about that one, but that's over. So, who did Bud fight after Earl? I can't remember. Anybody know? Was it Canelo? No. Ismadro. What's his name? Damn. Madrimov. Madrimov, right. Yeah, Madrimov. But Bud got stripped of the IBF like 5 minutes after the fight and they gave it to the boot. The IBF do some stripping. They even stripped Canelo. The IBF, they even stripped Canelo. So Bud versus Madrimov, okay, was his next fight after Earl, right? It was over a year later too. On April 20th, 2024, it was reported that Crawford would move up in weight to challenge Israel Madrimov for his WBA super welterweight title. This was in Los Angeles. This was Turkey Al-Sheikh's first Riyadh season in the United States, remember? And for Madrimov's WBA junior middleweight title, Los Angeles, California. And the WBC designated Crawford its welterweight champion in recess because he had all four of the belts, remember, at welterweight. Now, prior to the fight, Madrimov was a plus 600 underdog coming in, plus 600. And he was the champion, right? That's crazy. Wait a minute. I was supposed to erase one of them. There's him and Madrimov. Okay, so who won? Did Bud get what that would have been his fourth weight division, or did Madrimov hold him off and retain his title? Let's see what happened in that fight. From the early rounds, it was clear that Madrimov would be a tough challenge for Crawford. With fast hands, solid footwork, and clever feints, Madrimov kept Crawford from settling into his usual rhythm, preventing him from letting his hands go as he had against other top fighters. Crawford maintained a southpaw stance throughout the fight, sticking to his jab and using it to set up straight lefts and powerful uppercuts. However, I don't even really consider Bud a switch hitter anymore anyway, man. When the last time he fought in the orthodox stance? Can anybody remember? I can't. Now, his last two fights, did he go orthodox in the Earl fight? I know against Madrimov or Canelo, he fought southpaw both fights in their entirety. Now, Majimo capitalized on Crawford's vulnerability to straight right hands, making things difficult for the champion. Now, the momentum swung back and forth throughout the fight, with one fighter gaining control for a few rounds before the other took over with his own strategy. Ultimately, Crawford's strong push in the championship rounds won him the fight by unanimous decision. Yeah, that's what Bud came on in them championship rounds. That was similar to Hagler and Duran, where Hagler needed the championship rounds and got them, and Bud really needed those championship rounds, but their fight was in the balance, and he got them. 116, 112, 115, 113 twice. That was his fourth division for Bud. Mm-hmm. And then, what was his next fight? Let's see. Let's think. Anybody know who his next fight after Majimo was? Yeah, Canelo. That's right. Crawford versus Alvarez. In February of 2025, it was reported that an agreement was in place for Crawford to challenge Canelo Alvarez for his undisputed super middleweight titles in a mega fight, which would be in September of that same year, 2025. Now, both fighters had met with Turkey Ali Sheik separately and agreed to terms. And the fight would headline a Riyadh season card, likely scheduled for a venue in Las Vegas. Now, early rumors reported Allegiant Stadium as the front runner to host the event, and was Allegiant Stadium's first fight too. They were the front runner, and they ended up getting it. Okay. Now, Canelo had been ignoring call-outs from Crawford and Turkey Ali Sheik since 2024 for a fight. Okay. Now, a few days later, the Ring magazine reported the fight was canceled. Canelo began negotiations to fight Jake Paul, and on February 7th, the plans fell through when it was announced that Canelo signed a 4-fight deal with Riyadh season. Jake Paul was pissed off too, which meant the Crawford fight was back on. Immediately after defeating William Skull on May 3rd, Canelo was joined in the ring by, guess who? Crawford, as the fight was formally announced. On June 7th, following UFC 316, a reporter questioned Dana White about the card. White replied that he would be promoting the fight. Turkey Ali Sheik then posted on X to back what White had said. With TKO back on board, Netflix was likely to broadcast the event. On June 10th, the fight was officially announced, along with a 3-city press tour scheduled for Riyadh season. Okay, so let's get to the fight. June 17th, Allegiant Stadium was announced as the venue. Okay, come on, man, let's get to the fight. We lived through all of this, man. This just happened. Okay, here we go. And Crawford weighed in at 167.5 pounds. That's when I said, hold up here. That's when I started looking at Crawford, because I expected him to come in the low 60s. 167.5 ain't no weight somebody coming up from 154 would be at. 167.5 is like a regular super middleweight weighing in, right? That's when I said, hold up. I started having doubts about Canelo winning it then. But anyway, Crawford, fighting out of the southpaw stance, started cautiously before taking control in the 6th round with a clean hook that shifted the momentum. He outboxed Canelo through the middle rounds, mixing sharp jabs and counters while surviving a cut from a head clash in the 9th. Canelo rallied briefly in the 10th round, but Bud finished stronger in the championship round to earn a unanimous decision and become undisputed super middleweight champion by scores of 116, 112, 115, 113 twice. 70,482 people attended the event, shattering the previous record for Las Vegas boxing attendance, when 29,214 attended Larry Holmes' Jerry Cooney. Now, Bud became the 6th man to win titles in 5 divisions. Lofty company. The rest of the other 5 are all Hall of Famers. Thomas the Hitman Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, the Golden Boy Oscar De La Hoya, Manny the Pac-Man Pacquiao, and Floyd Pretty Boy / Money Mayweather, and Terence Bud Crawford. Only 6 men to win titles in 5 different divisions. All Hall of Famers. So you know where Bud headed to when he retired. He is in very lofty company there. Fighter profile. Just a little bit about his boxing style and all that. That's all. And personal life. Let's look at Bud's personal life before we get up out of here. We're coming down on the runway now. Coming in for a landing. Buckle your seatbelts. Personal life for Bud. Okay. It's getting hot in this bed. Damn. This weather is crazy. Oh, come on, man. Personal life. That's him and his wife, or I don't know if he's married or is that's his significant other. I don't know. Okay, personal life. Bud has 2 sisters, Letitia and Shantae. He has been in a relationship with a Lindra person since the early 2000s. No, I don't think they're married yet. They first met in their hometown of Omaha, Nebraska, and have 6 children together. Bud also has another child with another woman. He reportedly boasts a large real estate portfolio consisting of over 100 properties in Missouri, Colorado, and Nebraska. So yeah, Bud is investing his money properly. He's gonna be a rich man. His great-grandchildren is gonna be millionaires, okay? Generational wealth. And yeah, smart man, Bud Crawford. Now during fight camps, Bud moves to his second house in Colorado Springs and trains at Triple Threat Gym. Just 3 days after defeating Ricky Burns to capture his first world title, Bud was honored with the key to the city of Omaha, Nebraska. Oh yeah, we got to get to that too. What happened a few weeks ago? The Omaha City Council also declared March 4th, 2014 as Terence Bud Crawford Day. Crawford has been showcased as the cover athlete of the Ring magazine in September 2015 and May 2019, and was also a co-feature on the January 2019 issue. Yeah, let's get to that. What happened 3 weeks ago? Told y'all we're going for all the way. And then we're going to get ready to call it a day. In May 2025, the University of Nebraska of Omaha invited Bud to be the keynote speaker. Okay, at the commencement ceremony for graduating students. After delivering this speech, he was honored with the inaugural Spirit of the Maverick Award. In September 2008, after shooting dice with a few friends, Bud was shot on the right side of his head, right below his ear, while sitting in the driver's seat of his 1986 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme. I had an 85 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme. Wow. Bud had an 86. Reportedly, the 9mm bullet changed trajectory after initially hitting the rear windshield. Had it not, it would have hit more directly, penetrated deeply, and done enough damage to be fatal. Despite the badly bleeding wound, Bud was still able to drive himself to the hospital, where he received several stitches and was later discharged. Okay? Yeah, I'm trying to get up to, here we go, here. Okay. Nope, that ain't it. I saw Omaha police. Oh, there we go. Okay. In the early hours of his 38th birthday, just before 1:30 a.m. on September 28th, 2025, Bud was held at gunpoint during a traffic stop for reckless driving after officers observed a firearm on the driver's side floorboard. Police ordered Bud and the 3 other occupants out of the vehicle with their weapons drawn. All 4 were illegally permitted to carry firearms, and Crawford was cited for reckless driving. Omaha Mayor John Ewing Jr. and Police Chief Todd Smatterer later announced a review of the incident, with Smatterer authorizing an interim internal affairs investigation. Okay. The internal affairs investigation is just like a token thing, because the people in the internal affairs, guess what they are? They police too, so come on, man. It's like investigating yourself, right? Like I go out here and rob a bank, and then I'm in court, and all my family members and cousins on the jury, right? Internal affairs investigation is just police investigating police. Come on, man. Get out of here. Right? Now, Bud has done charitable work. In October 2013, he co-founded B&B Sports Academy, a nonprofit gym dedicated to building the body, mind, and character of young people, including at-risk youth in need of positive, structured activities. The academy is free for kids and includes a mandatory tutoring program that requires everyone to maintain at least a C average in school, and other charitable work that Bud does. In 2013, Bud started an anti-bullying campaign where he went to schools all over Omaha to discuss bullying, how to deal with it, and how to prevent it. In 2014, Bud traveled with his former teacher, Jamie Nalette, to Rwanda and Uganda on several charitable missions to help build and drill wells to create clean water for communities. In September 2023, Bud participated in a celebrity charity basketball game staged to benefit the Life Driven Foundation, a nonprofit organization committed to supporting adolescents diagnosed with cancer and their families. In 2024, he returned to Uganda for charity and other philanthropic reasons. And there you have it, the life and career of the legendary Terence Bud Crawford. All right, hope everybody enjoyed that today. This Friday, that's the week on Cast Sports, a box story. Appreciate everybody for stopping through. And remember to subscribe to all these great channels in here. You find Arnie, BBO Sports TV, the Autism Boy Cottage 81, Casuals Corner with Aunt McQueen and Thomas Hill. They probably listening. Salute Thomas Hill and Aunt McQueen. And yeah, appreciate everybody for stopping through. Like, subscribe, and all that stuff. And we're going to be back Monday with another big week of boxing history. Trilogy this Monday. I think it's going to be Canelo and Triple G trilogy. Or either Floyd Patterson or Ingemar Johansson, one of those two. Okay? Coming up Monday. On Trilogy Monday. When we start another big week of boxing history. Okay? You find Arnie 1, Mike Mazik, BBO Sports TV, The Autism Boy, Donnie Williams, Mike Rim, Crush the Legend. Yeah, make sure you subscribe to Crush the Legend too. One of the best shows on YouTube. Remember that's Sports Talk Network and Miss Cass. Appreciate everybody. Just Do Boxing is up next in these YouTube streets. Hope everybody have a great weekend. We got some boxing tomorrow. We don't have no big names, but it's boxing. That's what we love, right? I don't know what I'm doing now. But everybody have a great weekend. This is Cast Sports. Appreciate y'all 1,000,000%.